everybody. We're at the Imp and the Ogre. My name is Paul.
And my name is Ryan.
This week, we're talking about the Assassin's Knot.
All right, so what we got here? The Assassin's Knot. This was published in 1983 by, let's see, it was written by Len Lakofka. This is a first edition AD&D adventure. It's also known as L2, I believe. It's the sequel to L1, The Secret of Bone Hill, which you don't need to have played to do this adventure. It's available for a couple of bucks on the DM's Guild. And yeah, it is a murder mystery adventure.
It is, yeah. Requires a lot of preparation.
Oh, yeah. Tons.
Lots and lots of preparation to even like remotely run this successfully, I think. Which is part of my like, I don't like that about it. Yeah, there's not a lot of winging it in this.
Yes.
Like there's some great NPCs, very specific responses to things. The way that they behave is very specific, but you really need to know your characters when you're playing this game, because to constantly be going back and referring to what they know or how they think would be time consuming and like really clunky to run at a table.
Yes, I do have a suggestion solution to aid with DM prep for that, but we'll get to that in a second. So you don't really seem to like this based off of some conversation off mic.
Yeah, it's not my cup of tea, this type of adventure. That being said, I'm sure if I like really wanted to and gave it the attention that it deserves, it would probably be a lot of fun with players that want to play this type of adventure. But the reading of the adventure itself is dry. There's a lot of information. There's a lot, it's an old adventure, and the way that they wrote was very detailed. Everything had a purpose. Everybody had money. There was things everywhere because you were expected to, like, if you wanted to steal something, there needed to be something to steal.
Yep.
So
it is an incredibly well detailed city, I guess township, and what that means is it's basically an incredible sandbox for your players to run amok. Now, built into this sandbox is a murder investigation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now I'll get into, we can talk about the nitty gritty details in a second, but one thing that I liked about this, and I generally like the adventure. I think it takes a certain type of party and certain, you really need certain type of players to be able to enjoy doing this. It is very combat light for the most part. Like it could end with a massacre, but for the most part, like, you shouldn't be getting into too many fights, which not everybody's into. But what I really like about this adventure is from the minute that it starts, there is a built-in timer.
Mm-hmm.
The players have a week to solve the mystery, or basically a bunch of other people die. Actually, a bunch of other people die throughout the course of the week, but it all resolves within a week, and it's really tight. Like, you don't have a ton of leeway in this, and we can talk about them specifically in a minute here, but there are also consequences to certain actions that the players make, which add further delays in there, right? And I think that it's almost impossible to successfully do this adventure.
You have to be really good investigators, and I think it's good to note that you're not supposed to succeed. Like, that's not a for sure outcome. So
it's not a given.
You shouldn't intentionally be giving them the right clues if they haven't asked the right questions. Yeah. Like, if they haven't done the right thing to get the information from the person or haven't looked in the right place, like, you're not supposed to guide them. Yeah. It's like they go to bed and it's Wednesday and this has happened. Yeah. There's no keep doing it until you figure out who the murderer is. And it's like that. If you're running this, you should maybe preface like your adventure with this and be like, you have a week. Like, tell them that they're on a timer. Don't just let them fart around in town. And then it might prompt better questioning or looking into
it might
things.
Put more of a sense of urgency in there, but I don't know if you want to make it that explicit.
But they need to know that they're running a murder mystery.
Well, yeah, they know already, right?
Yeah.
That's the whole. We'll get to the hook in a second, but I do agree with what you're saying. I think that it's really easy for the players to get frustrated in this adventure. I could definitely feel like they're getting into dead ends, and I could see them getting bored and just being like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't care about these people. Let's go do something else.
Yeah.
Right. I think that could definitely be problematic. Also, this is one of those situations where the adventure requires the players to be proactive.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't know what everybody's other experiences out there, but I find generally that your players want to be reactive. They want to respond to problems, usually with violence, but they, at least my players, for the most part, don't really like to go out and search for things or think too often in some cases. So once again, this is a particular adventure that works for a particular type of player. It definitely doesn't work for everybody.
See, this would be something that'd be interesting to run underneath to something else. Like if you really, like the town in itself is like extraordinarily detailed. If you spent the time, and which is like important in like world building.
Oh yeah,
so this is like done it for you already. NPCs are thought out and unique and have personalities. So if you spent a lot of time familiarizing yourself with this adventure just for the sake of having like a solid starting town, and then ran this adventure like underneath their noses without them knowing, like, because there's conversations that happen in town during other adventures, like you could almost have this going on while they were going to kill the kobolds in the lair, while they were doing the goblins, which would be like an organic way to have it happening.
Yeah, I agree.
Which I think would be cooler than just running this straight out on its own.
Well, I actually made a note in my notes here, because if you remember when we did Sinister Secret of Saltmarsh, is that was one of the complaints, is that town kind of sucks in that adventure. This could literally be your town. You could take this town. It's on the coast. It's in the adventure is written. It's on a lake, but you could just make it on the ocean.
Yeah.
And suddenly it's this. It's you just make this salt marsh instead of whatever it's called, Garrotten, and you could have both adventures running at the same time effectively. So they always, they get bored with looking into the murder mystery. Well, they're going to go explore the haunted house.
Yeah. And
then things come from that. That being said, one thing I really do like about this adventure is it is start to finish a single level advancement. You start at level X, you go through the entire adventure, you gain a level. And I don't think there's enough adventures where that is the case. And personally, just due to the way I like doing level advancement, I'm a big fan of that. You go through, you have some experiences, you learn some things, you laughed, you cried, and then you have some time to reflect on what you learned, and then boom, now you know how to turn into a chipmunk or what have you.
Yeah.
And I like that from a general sort of adventure design standpoint.
Yeah.
Okay. So as written, basically someone important is murdered. In this particular adventure, it's a baron who you would have met, I believe, in the previous adventure. In your own campaign, it can literally be anybody. It doesn't really matter. But it should be a political assassination, because as the players probably won't figure out throughout the course of the adventure, but might, it's basically politically motivated murders to gain power. And literally you could do it any type of thing. This could be murders within a clergy. It could be murders as default. It's, for land title stuff, but it could be any type of organization with a hierarchy you could tie this into. So you could easily shoehorn it into any ongoing campaign where you wanted there to be some sort of murder.
Yeah.
So someone's murdered. You, as the party, get or your players get asked to investigate it based off of some NPC that they know or whoever. Like the reasons behind it don't really matter. Okay, but they look into the murder and they find some evidence.
Was it, they planted. There's like 3 things planted at the scene of the crime: the golden loot string, a button, and a gem.
Oh, is it like a holy symbol?
No, it was a red gem. It was a red gem, which is one of the gems inset on the holy symbol of one of the NPCs in
Oh,
town.
okay.
So they're framing 3 different people, very like Clue-esque, right? Like, which immediately directs you in 3 different directions.
Yeah, and this is actually my biggest complaint with this adventure.
Like, why would you frame 3 people at the same time?
Why would you frame 3 people that are all
Super powerful
in the same town where your Assassin's Guild is situated?
And also, the people that they framed are like badass.
Oh, they're all high
player
level
characters.
They're super awesome NPCs. But like, that's easily my biggest complaint. Like, you're gonna frame somebody, so you're gonna draw attention to the town where you are.
And why would his loot string be there? What would he like? That's
Oh yeah, it's super super obvious that it was planted.
yeah.
Right. So that would be my first suggestion: is you got to make it less obvious. Like
Like the button one is good.
buttons
Like
fine.
that makes sense to lose a button during a thing. The
Right.
gem, I guess, but like the framing the bard is like the dumbest one out of all of them.
Why did he lose a loot
Like,
string?
why was his loot with him on a murder?
You know, I mean, the thing is, there's other evidence that these people were in town. So, I mean, that can give you a suspect in and of itself is fine. But it really makes no sense. Now, I did have a thought that would rectify this. What if the assassination wasn't actually done by the Assassin's Guild? What if what's actually happening is the Assassin's Guild is being framed?
Right.
So it's intentionally set up to be awful, to draw the player's attention to...
See, it's funny, interesting that you say that, because I thought like the coolest way to run this adventure would be if you were the 2 assassins planted in the inn. Like if you were playing those guys.
Yeah.
So now that you mentioned that, like if you were in the Assassin's Guild and you thought that something wasn't right, now you're the 2 assassins in the guild investigating this thing. Like that's the, like I thought it was like, oh, it'd be interesting to be on the inside of this trying to figure it out.
Yeah, no, that makes for an interesting point. It's just the framing is so bad.
Yeah, it's
Like and the people are so obviously not suspicious when you actually investigate. We'll get to that in a second here. Is this the most incompetent?
especially for how well equipped the person who actually did the framing was.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like master assassin has like
Could have
the
easily
cloak of etherealness. Etherealness.
Anyway, I mean, yeah, exactly. The assassin could have easily gone in there, killed them, and not framed anybody, and nobody'd have a clue.
Yeah.
Right? Like, at all. So it's all very suspicious, which is kind of why I like the idea of maybe it's a setup. You know, the whole point is like the players are being used to eliminate the Assassin's Guild. So it's sort of like this double blind thing. I don't know. It's pretty sloppy. I mean, basically, you could also get rid of all of the planted evidence, and there's enough. You know, all 3 of these characters were seen, quote unquote, to be in the town. You know, on that day. And they're all, like, you know, outsiders or whatever. So they're
not unusual for them though.
No, so I don't know. It's poorly.
It's just like it gives the player characters a good reason to go talk to all these people. Really, they're like clues that you would connect from descriptive information later on.
Oh yeah, you easily can figure out who these people are, but like none of them are actual threats to the guild.
No.
So like, what does the guild have to gain from one of them being, you know, blamed?
Especially the priest.
Oh yeah, no, the priest, like, as we'll talk about in a second, but like there's no way once your players meet the priest, they're gonna be like, oh, this guy definitely did it. It's like, no, there's no way.
Like there's only one NPC that I figured maybe you would peg this on. It was the innkeeper, Abraham, or whatever his name was.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, I don't know. It's all really the start of it is kind of bad.
Yeah.
So you'd want to try to figure a way of making it a little less obvious, you know what I mean? And then a couple of the facts, like, why wouldn't you just get like, I think it says in there, like, speak with dead doesn't answer anything. It's just like, that's not helpful whatsoever. You know, like, he's also a baron. Why don't they just resurrect them? You know, why don't you just cast raise dead? Cost 500 gold pieces. Boom. Right? Apparently he doesn't want to come back.
I guess maybe he didn't have his pocket cleric with him.
Didn't have his pocket cleric. All his diamonds went missing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's ignore that aspect of it. Let's just assume that you get some sort of buy-in from your players, and everybody goes to this town, Garotin, which is named after obviously a garrote, which is used to strangle people. And in case it wasn't obvious enough, like the word on the street is this is where you go if you need to get somebody killed. So if your players weren't hip to the fact that there might be assassins here, everybody knows there's assassins here, which I wouldn't even include that in the adventure if I was running this. Like, come on, like, oh yeah, if you want to get somebody killed, you go to this town and you can get somebody killed.
Hey, you just that towns get reputations.
Reputations
People tend to disappear when they visit that town.
Why you don't poop where you live, man? Like why would anyone disappear in that town? It should be the safest town ever. It should be like idyllic. Anyways, so you go to this town. And this town is about as detailed a town as I have read in any adventure. Like, literally.
Yeah. There's every single building, every single NPC, what they own, how much gold they have.
How many kids are there,
Yeah,
Which ones have character classes, which ones don't have character classes.
Yeah, if you want to save yourself a ton of time if you're building a campaign, replace the names, take this, do whatever you want, but it's as close to, I suppose, perfection of like I couldn't imagine the amount of work that it took to
make it,
put this together, and props to the creator. It's impressive for sure, and it's a long read.
It is full of interesting NPCs. It's for like a small town. It has literally everything. Mm-hmm. It's got an alchemist. It's got like a bank. It's got multiple blacksmiths, all of which are really interesting NPCs. Like literally, if nothing else, you could just take this adventure, use the town as your starting town, and build whatever type of campaign world off of it.
Yeah,
like
and it's not just detail. There's like personality quirks that these things, like there's a
relationships.
A lot of thought went into this, and it's just like I was impressed, but like bored to read it too.
So if you're actually running the adventure, it's really important to know what the NPCs know and who they are and what have you. And it'd be a lot of prep for a DM, like tons and tons and tons.
Yeah.
And one way I've thought of getting around this would be using like NPC cards.
Oh yeah.
Right. I've mentioned that to you in the past for other things. But I think this is the type of adventure which would really benefit. So my idea, and I've seen NPC cards in certain adventures before, but what I would do is I would basically, make business cards for the NPCs, who they are, what are they, and you can put any other extra information on it that you want. But I like the idea of using little NPC cards and giving them to the players, right? Like basically make your players have a Rolodex of the NPCs they know. And when they want to talk to an NPC, you're like, okay, well, who do you want to talk to? We want to talk to Jim the barkeep. It's like, can I see his card? And then like on the card, you can see the information, see who he is. Like it lets you remember it. It lets your players remember it.
You'd still have to have some way of actually like writing down what they know as well.
Yeah.
A flap on the card or something, but then like your players might want to look at that.
No, you just have like little blurbs on it. You can just have secret code. I don't know. But you need to do a lot of...
That's still a lot of prep.
It's a lot of prep.
Yeah. There's, however many NPCs in the town. There's a lot.
It's a lot. But I mean, that's the whole thing is like, I wouldn't run this town as a one-shot adventure. This should be your hub town for basically everything.
Yeah.
Right? Like if you're just doing this as a like random one-off, it's not worth the prep. No. Not at all.
I guess it would be great if it was like... You're, however long into your campaign, you've been running out of this town for a long time, you've been using your same NPCs for a long time, would probably be a good way to do it, because then you can just like build knowledge of who everyone is over time, like an attrition type thing, and then run the adventure. Because doing it as a one-off is a lot of work and a lot of remembering who things are. But I guess if you just chose this town to be your starting town and they'd been in and out of town numerous times, where they've talked to the same blacksmith and you have more of like an intimate knowledge of them, probably be a little bit easier.
I think the adventure is better as just a central location to run adventures out of than like the actual adventure. So what I did like about what goes on as part of the adventure is there's lots of like triggered events right? And we'll go through the the specific locations and suspects in a second here, but I like the fact that throughout the adventure, certain things happen on certain days. So if, for example, the players just don't investigate things or ignore stuff, somebody innocent gets executed. Mm-hmm. And that basically eats up a day. Mm-hmm. If they get caught sneaking around, they can get thrown in jail, which also eats up a day. I mean, they're eventually released, assuming they don't get into a fight with the town guards. If they get in a fight with the town guards, they're going to get executed, right? Mm-hmm. And on the whole, this adventure really doesn't want you to fight unnecessarily. And there's going to be certain types of players that are more likely than not to just end up arrested and dead.
Maybe,
right?
yeah.
Like this whole adventure requires you to talk to people.
Yep.
Right? Like, and actually use social skills. Like, you can't stab your way to the answer at all. Right? I mean, I guess you could try to bully and intimidate your way to the answer, but like, you're trying to bully and intimidate people that like are more powerful than you. So
most of them, yeah.
Puts you kind of at a disadvantage. And like, trying to bully that priest would be a really
bad idea.
Really bad idea. Because he's bonkers. So it's kind of problematic. But I love, like, you offend one of these suspects, and that results in like you having to go crabbing for a day. Like you can't really say no. The whole church is like, no, we're going crabbing. You're coming. You're going to carry the crabs today, kind of thing, right? Like it's ridiculous stuff. There's a red herring in a sea monster, which is just like a giant octopus, but like, yeah, you can go kill the giant octopus, great, but that also kills a whole day. Like, if your players get distracted, they can't win. Like, you have to stay a razor focus to try to get through this, and I just don't see the average adventuring party doing that without like a lot of guidance and help. Like, there's a lot of places that you can get sidetracked in this by design. Like, it's not by accident. It's like, it's supposed to be tricky. But man, the town is so cool.
The town is really cool. Yeah.
Now, if you were running this for 5th edition, there's some problems. Like, everybody's got multiple magical items.
Yeah. Like, people are powerful at the, like, literally this is like retired hero central.
Yeah.
Like, everyone that you run into that's interesting has like magic weapons, magic armor, bracelets, rings.
Well, there's a legitimate retired adventuring party in town. And then, like, everybody else also has got magic items because reasons. Also, there's psionics in this, which, as of right now, I don't think 5th edition has psionics in the standard rule set yet. It might get it eventually. So you can kind of, like, just hand wave it, right? Like, I mean, they're not critical. It's just there are characters that have it. But, man, like...
Abraham.
Yeah, he's one of the suspects, so it kind of becomes an issue. But, man, like, this is the coolest NPCs he's in here. There's a tailor who, if you're from out of town, he charms you into spending too much money buying clothes. Like, literally, you can just go into like, hey, I need a hat. He's like, poof, you actually would like to buy this beautiful robe. It's probably worth 300 gold. They're like, oh, thanks for 300 gold. Tell everybody what a great deal it was, right? Like, he charms out of towners into buying clothes for way more than they're worth. Like, that's hilariously awesome NPC, right? And that's just the begin. I mean, what is it? One of the blacksmiths this is part of the too many magical items things. One of the blacksmiths has a magical sword that I can't remember. It attacks like lawful. Yeah, it hates lawful or good characters. I can't remember. Like it's a evil-ish NPC, but he's got a low mental scores. So the sword will detect alignment on you, and if you're like a good character, it takes over the orc and like attacks you, right? Like, it's completely bonkers. But you go into like buy a sword, buy a weapon or whatever, and this half orc like attacks you, and this sword's yelling at you the entire time. Like, it's like, I mean, that's a bit much maybe for a 5th edition adventure, but man, that is kind of a memorable encounter.
One of the things about like this edition too, it's like when the NPC introduces themselves to you, they declare their alignment. They like tell you what they are. It's like, they will let you know that they are lawful good. And also it's just like, yeah, that makes for a good conversation piece. My name's Jim and I'm lawful good. It's like an AA meeting of intention.
Well, they also refer to themselves as like by their classes. I am a lawful good cleric.
Yeah.
You know, like it's a simpler time, if you will. You know, the bygone days of the early '80s. So there's changes that have obviously come in since then. You don't necessarily want there to be all these magic items, and alignment is no longer a thing, which, I mean, technically it's still there, but they've kind of removed the teeth from it.
Yeah.
I kind of disagree with that,
so
but that's a separate issue for a separate day. Okay, so regardless, it's a really cool town, lots of interesting things, tons of NPCs, lots of fun stuff. So coming here with very little like legwork necessary from the players, I think even before they leave the original site of the murder, they can narrow it down to 3 suspects.
Yeah.
Okay, and one of which is a well-known innkeeper. One of them is literally the high priest of a church.
Yep.
And then the other one is a well-known bard who manages a theater company.
Yeah.
So these are the 3 main locations other than the castle that the players can explore. So the innkeeper at this town, innkeeper in the inn, is one of the 3 suspects. Right? The inn is awesome.
The inn is super cool.
Like, come
like
on.
Such a well-designed place. But also it's like, this is why I think he is like the only person that you could suspect of maybe having done this. Because if you start to snoop around the inn, one, there's a couple assassins who reside there who are like, I don't know if they know who actually did the assassination, but they know that the Assassin's Guild did it.
Yeah. They're in the Assassin's Guild. Before we get into just to point about the Assassin's Guild, it's actually really cleverly set up as a isolated cell. Not all the assassins know who all the other assassins are.
Yeah, they just know that there's an Assassin's Guild in town.
So they have contacts, but they don't have the same contacts. I think basically only the guild leader and like the second in command know who all the other assassins are.
Which is like a pretty smart way to run an Assassin's Guild.
It's super smart. So even if you like wanted to take I think you're an assassin, I'm gonna beat you up to find out. Like it basically is a breadcrumb trail. Like you can't just find out who the leader is. Like you can work your way up the chain.
Maybe,
like theoretically.
Yeah. It's a smart way to run it.
It's logical. It's very well thought out.
Yeah. There's not just a house they go to that they all hang out in the basement of. It's like run out of.
Ye old Assassin's Guildy, right? Anyways, you were saying about the inn.
Great. Well, the guy that we're investigating, Abraham, the psionicist, so pretty suspicious of anything that involves his inn. So he will read minds and read intentions and listen to conversations. He knows who everybody is, and he knows that there's assassins that are staying there, but has gone through extraordinary measures to make sure that he can peek in on anybody at any point that he wants. So there's secret passages that lead from the basement, I think.
It's like a sub.
Yeah, it's like a subfloor that there's
crawl space.
There's secret passageways and secret doors in every single room in the inn.
There's a trap door that leads into every single room.
Yeah.
Spies on his guests.
The 2 assassins that have been staying there know about the so they've locked the door from the inside.
And there's a gambler who's also found it.
Yeah, he's put his bed on top of the thing. So he the assassins have trapped their doors.
If you open up the doors all the way, there's a crossbow.
One's a whitewash too, isn't it?
One jumps a bucket of paint on you, and the other one's is trapped with a crossbow.
Yeah.
You open the door, the crossbow shoots you. It's awesome.
So there's lots of cool stuff to find in there. The person who runs the inn is I thought he was an awesome NPC. Lots of personality, lots of character, super powerful too.
Yeah. And basically what you could find, the way you could continue the adventure here is you can find out that one of the serving boys stole one of his buttons.
Yeah.
And I can't remember.
The assassins put the kid up to it because he was in love with, I think he was the kid loved someone else. Isn't that the connection?
No, I think that's the connection from the loot string.
Okay.
I think someone just paid him or bullied him, but maybe the gnome.
I think
it was basically paid to steal a button. So he can link you to someone in the castle.
Right.
Right. Is the main one to just a random person who also I think happens to be in the Assassin's Guild. I can't remember off the top of my head, but that makes sense. So you can find out okay, that's how you would find out that no, this isn't actually a suspect. If you are too slow in your investigation, it gets pegged on Abraham and he gets executed. Right? The inn is super neat. This is also if like you wanted to like be like, man, I wish I could hire, man, I really want to have someone killed, right? Like basically the assassins that are in the inn are the contact point for people that actually do want assassinations.
Yeah.
So that is a valid way of trying to find the Assassins Guild, is to try to like hire an assassin.
Because you could squeeze one of them for some information.
Well, and then there's, they message somebody else, and then you have to meet with the higher up and outside of town, and like there's all these steps that buffer the actual leaders,
because they don't even have the contact to the leader. I think they have to tell someone else.
Yeah,
they put a coin under a door.
Yeah, there's a whole thing going on. Like it's very well thought out. I also like that there's a gambler there who's got a ring of, I think it's ESP. I don't know if it exists in 5th edition anymore, but like he reads people's minds while he's playing cards. So they're basically like, yeah, you can play cards, but you can lose money, right? Like, so, and he knows about the trapdoors, and he suspects the assassins and stuff like that. So there's other NPCs that you can sort of learn a little bit of information about the overall Assassins Guild at the inn. And the inn, it's once again just a really great location that's set up that you should be super suspicious about. Like,
especially once you find that there's like trapdoors and
like,
what?
Even the justification for their being there, it's like, when Abraham like reads someone's mind and he thinks it's super dodgy, he goes and tells the bard that there might be something dodgy, and then it's the bard that breaks in because he's got better ability scores at being sneaky. Like it's all very
D&D.
It's very D&D. Like it's these people know they're D&D characters in a D&D world. Sometimes
they're also
like
friends. Those guys too.
Yes.
They're like well connected. Yeah.
Well, the whole thing is there's a lot of the high-powered NPCs are friends, which is one of the things the players have to kind of be aware of. There's also like a druid that is friends with these people as well. So like if they start being too aggressive, they can get beat up. Like your players could easily just get killed
by the very high level people,
by like good play, like actual they're good PCs. So they're just like, you piss them off, they're gonna not put up with it, right? So that's one of the locations. The other location, or one of the other locations, is the Church of Osprem, which is the big church. I think it's in this setting. This is a god of the sea or whatever.
Yeah, where you've got like an 8th level priest with dementia who is like the funniest character. Man, I have written down Harper the High Priest is great, full of lulls.
Full of lulls. So
my favorite part about the whole church is that like the church, he will do services for you, but he spins dials to see how much things cost every single day. Like he spins a wheel to see how much his spells will cost.
Yeah.
So it's like if you want a high level spell, it could be anywhere from 0 to like 9,999. So he just spins a wheel and decides what it is for the day.
Yeah.
And that's the cost of stuff for the day.
And that's only if you try to deal with him directly. Like his subordinates in it like have the official lists, but like he's the only priest that's high enough to cast Raise Dead. Now granted, this once again this is from 1st edition AD&D. 3rd edition is a little bit different, so you might have to mess around with character levels and whatnot. And he also memorizes his spells randomly. With a couple of exceptions. Doesn't always remember things. So if you need to raise somebody from the dead, he may or may not have remembered to memorize that spell,
or remembered that he memorized it. He will cast the spell if asked, it says. But it's like in the description, he's like much more likely to cast a warding spell on a piece of cheese.
It flat out says that like he will use his high-powered magic at a whim, never violently. It flat out says that he won't kill anybody or hurt, but like if
not on a whim, he will cast a 5th level spell at the end of every day.
Yeah.
Like it's not just he might. It's like he actually casts a spell every single night at a very high level.
Oh yeah, like cast like divine smites like a dog or something like that. Like he just uses super high level spells.
Plague Swarm or whatever.
Plague Swarm on like a tree.
But he'll never use them maliciously. It's just like he casts it.
But he might put like quest, guest quest, or I guess whatever the equivalent is in 5th edition, randomly on you. Like you could be sent divinely compelled to go find him his favorite pair of shoes. Like it's completely.
I lost my shoes.
Osbrum commands you to find me my favorite
like, "What?
slippers."
No!
Right? Like every interaction with him has the potential to just be hilarious. So now, mental illness isn't a joke, but right now,
support it if you can.
the way it's set up, it's really interesting, and you get to play up with sort of the exasperated nature of the underlings because they have to deal with like a super unpredictable,
high-powered
priest. Which once again, it's like this man is obviously mentally, impaired due to advanced age. Yet his deity is like, this is awesome. No, you should just you keep being you, buddy. Right?
You're not hurting anybody.
Yeah, hurt anybody. And he's full of lulls, as you said, right?
Super funny. The friggin' wheels are great.
Oh, the randomly setting the prices. Yeah, no, I think that's...
for sure. If you do like run this at something, just put that in there. Just like have it happen. Like whether or not he's spinning them when they go in or they ask for something to be done, have him spin those wheels for something.
Random prices for your spell casting thing every single day, which is unfortunate. I mean, because he is the suspect. So you're gonna go in there and like accuse this unstable, high-powered magic user of killing somebody else, right? Like as the DM, you have a lot of flexibility in how you want to play that out, right? Like it is kind of potentially very hilarious, and it gives you a lot of flexibility. Also because of his high-powered magic and super unpredictability, you could use him as a way of furthering the plot if players got stuck.
Yeah.
Right? Because he could cast Commune and a bunch of other high-powered magical spells that, so-and-so had a dream. Had a dream, and this is what happened. So basically what happened here is that the groundskeeper is an assassin. Right? So...
The crippled groundskeeper.
I think he actually is crippled.
I'm not sure if he actually did. It says he took a flail to the face or something like that.
Oh, yeah, he's a disfigured. He's not actually crippled, right? So he's the one who stole the gem from the...
So I guess I presume that you would notice that the holy symbol is missing the gem. Yeah, I think that's where it was inset.
Something like that. I can't remember all the specific details of it. But anyways, the groundskeeper stole it. How you'd find that out, I don't know if you would. He's drilled holes into lots of walls that he eavesdrops on conversations, so you might be able to trick him that way. If you got suspicious and tried to check his little house, he's got another crossbow booby trap, which I actually thought was kind of interesting because I think almost all the assassins use crossbow booby traps. So like if your players are smart, they should pick up on the fact that like,
crossbow booby trap.
Crossbow booby trap. It's the same type used.
It does say in there that back to the priest that he can be cured of his ailment with a potion of something or other. Yeah,
really?
I don't know.
Not that the players have time to go on a quest to get that particular thing,
unless they were compelled.
Yeah, they could be compelled. I mean, that's another thing is like as a plot generation device, man, he's perfect. So even if you weren't running the Assassin's Not, like as an idea to put in your own campaign, a mentally unstable, high-powered magic user seems like there's a lot of potential there. This is just like a priest, but like it could be a wizard, is it age related? Is it magical derangement? You know what I mean? Like there's all types of cool ways that you could use that as a plot hook, and that's actually opens kind of an interesting question. Is like what does your magical society do when
one of its own goes crazy?
Well, no, it's go crazy. Like they've seen what cannot be unseen, and their minds have shattered.
Yeah, it must be dangerous to have those people wandering about.
Yeah. So how you deal with it is kind of interesting thing to build into your campaign setting if you wanted to. So the church is the second location, and then the last location is the theater, where the golden lute string is well known to be what the guy's name is. Balmoro, the bard, has a lute with golden lute strings, and like literally everybody knows this. So it's his lute string. He's a very interesting NPC. I love the fact that he only meets people by appointment, and he won't meet more than 3 people at a time. And I just like, I know I've like one of my player parties would definitely have issues with that. Like any situation where, like, say you have 4 or 5 people in the party and they can't all go to the meeting is going to cause a problem. In my experience, like, you're obviously your own parties and players will vary, but I can just see that being like, why? No,
I want to go.
It's like,
you won't ask the right questions.
Well, I don't trust you. He's like, well, too bad. You're not going to go see him. So are they going to try to break in to, like, see him? And he's got, like, tons of traps. Like, he is not.
And everyone in his troop is, like, well equipped as well.
Well, they're all like thieves and stuff like that. Like, from a skill standpoint, they're easily the most suspicious and the most likely to have done it because they have the ability to do so.
Yep.
But they're not. They're good.
Harmless.
They're harmless. And this is the one where if you basically strong arm the stagehands, you find out that one of them stole the loot string, and he stole it for his girlfriend.
Yeah, or supposedly thought he was stealing it for. Yeah,
and she's I don't know if I can't remember if she's part of the Assassin's Guild, but she's like the apprentice to somebody who's in the Assassin's Guild kind of thing as a magic user. And talking to Balmoro, you find out that, like, he'll point out which stagehands. He's like, oh yeah, well, somebody he broke one of my strings and he replaced it. Like, so the apprentice basically said that, or the stagehand said he broke the string and had to replace it. And Balmoro's like, okay, whatever.
Yeah, sure, okay, thanks for doing your job.
But he's like super dismissive, and like, you don't want to piss him off. Like, that's the whole thing, is like, all of the suspects are higher level NPCs than the party is.
It's like, it's almost like it's tempting you to get frustrated with them to start a fight. Because even like the innkeeper, it's like, he won't, like, he's not aggressive, but he's very protective of his inn. So if you start a fight in his inn, he will most often side with the person, like, side with someone that you pick the fight with, and like beat you up and kick you out. So it's like, you're probably going to get arrested at some point during this thing, no matter what.
Well, yeah, I definitely think the players will get frustrated and they'll try to do something.
Try to bully someone or
be
intimidate someone.
Or whatnot. Yeah. I mean, because there's lots of guards. The guards aren't evil. Like, this is still a town with a rule of law and all that type of stuff. So you can't get into fights, right? And everybody kind of wants you to fight them, right? Not so many words, but like, there's a lot of things that can happen that would be aggravating to a party, especially if they're used to, like, being the heroes.
Because they're like, in the eyes of the people, the other heroes, they're probably like minuscule. You know, like with the adventure that they've seen, there's like nothing compared to the people that are retired here.
Oh yeah, it's like, who are you?
Yeah,
like,
whatever. Insects.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, lots of them know there's an Assassin's Guild, and they're just like, it's good for the economy.
Yeah,
you know?
Or they're not intimidated by them at all. No, they're like, I can handle myself.
They're not worried about it. They're like, they're not causing any troubles. You know, like, just don't rock the boat. You know, it's a lot of live and let live that is going on in the town. So it's hard to really.
They know how the world works, these adventurers.
Yeah, or even just, the suspects themselves. Like, so it's fairly easy to say that the suspects, to find out the suspects aren't responsible, and all of the clues lead to the castle, right?
The interesting thing is like, you're a bunch of adventurers hired to solve a murder, but it's like, doesn't everyone else know that this happened to you? Like, nobody, like, it never says like, they didn't do it, or they never claim innocence.
Oh yeah,
they're just like, you're just supposed to go and question them. It's like, no one is like, they will tell you that they're innocent and tell, like, well, none of them have alibis. That's part of the thing. So there's like no good reason for them not to have done it. But nobody, like, it doesn't say in there explicitly that like the bard will claim innocence and try and tell you why. It's just like, no, just try and figure it out, and like, whatever.
They don't take it seriously. And I imagine most of them would be like, it's probably the Assassin's Guild. Yeah. Right? Like, they all know it's there. Yeah. And they don't really care so much. So like, you'd be hard pressed to even get them to help you more than anything else. But in the end, you find it's linked to the castle. And this is where, like, I'm not even sure how you would figure out who the actual heads of the Assassin's Guild are. Like, other than starting to sort of beat up and intimidate actual members to try to work your way through the cell, right? Like, I guess
the only clue at the end is like finding the guy's room with the outfits in it.
Yeah, Oh yeah,
that's like in the castle, like deep in the castle, and
basically
like your chances of success are 0.
Yeah. Well, I mean, basically, there's the 3 people that take audiences. One of them's the mayor. One of them is her chief advisor, who's the actual head of the Assassin's Guild. But the mayor's also in the Assassin's Guild. So, like, the 2 most important people in town run the Assassin's Guild. And how are you supposed to eliminate them? Like, actually figuring that out is really hard. Right, like you can probably through following the trail of clues find out. I can't remember the guy's name is, but you can find out that that guy was who ended up getting the button and the loot string and all of that type of stuff. But the only way you can find more proof is going into his room where you just find some clothing.
The disguises,
right?
Yeah.
This is funny because I was just complaining about this in one of our other episodes, but like. There should be like a note or something, you know? Like,
yeah, the notes that you hate so much. There should be a note.
There should be a note. Like, it's an Assassin's Guild. There should be some bookkeeping. You know what I mean? Like, these are...
A ledger,
like contracts. Like, people are paying... Like, the whole thing is this actual assassin... Like, as written, this was a paid-for assassination due to reasons. Like, it doesn't really matter for the context of what we're talking about. But the actual Assassin's Guild was contacted and killed the person as a means of furthering their ends. Like the whole thing is they want to eliminate the ruling family from this other town because the next person sort of in order of importance is this mayor. So then they would take over and be in charge of the sort of little mini region, right? So that's the whole idea. And over time, what happens is like the surviving members of the family of the Baron end up getting assassinated. Like his wife and his daughter, I think, are the ones that end up getting killed over the course of the week if the players don't save them. If the players don't save them, what happens is, nothing really as far as the players are concerned. Like
also, like you got to think if you're using this as a town and you do stop the murders, like why are your players not the next targets of assassination?
Yeah.
Like it's a town where people come to die. Someone's died. Nobody's investigating it. Yeah. It's like the general consensus from people that probably know things is like, hey, we're investigating this murder. And like, yeah, someone died. They're like, yeah, we know. They're like, who did? They're like, oh, probably the Assassin's Guild. Like, oh, you gonna do anything with it? Like, no, I'm good.
No, I mean,
just stay out of it.
It's official,
Yeah, like, it's like whatever.
Maybe they're a registered guild. They pay their taxes.
Yeah,
right.
It's like, oh, he must have done something to deserve getting assassinated for. Yeah. Just stay out of the way.
So like that's the whole thing. Is it's kind of interesting. Is like, what's the end game here as the players? Like, what is your end game? Like, I guess you could just report on who did it. I mean, there's literally no way that you can find out who hired the Assassin's Guild.
Yeah.
Like literally, other than someone in the, because once again, there's no ledger to say it. Going into the castle on like a murder rampage is like impossible.
There's so many guards.
And the thing is like, they're not all evil.
Yeah.
Right? Like the town isn't full of bad people.
Yeah.
There's lots of neutral people, mind you. But like, it's not like these are evil guards. No. You just start
they're doing their job. They're going to do their job. Yeah.
This is the mayor. They work for the mayor. They aren't going around killing anybody. They're keeping the peace. They're doing a good job.
So that's where like maybe it would be better if whoever hires to investigate you, maybe they're part of the Assassin's Guild looking to take it over. Maybe it's someone else from a political standpoint has hired you because they know that these people are part of the Assassin's Guild, can't prove it. Yeah. Like there needs to be a reason for your players not to be killed if they figure it out, or even if they don't figure it out. Yeah. Like why would the Assassin's Guild want a group of heroes investigating what they've been up to?
Yeah.
Or if you, like I said, if you do succeed, like that can't be good for you.
Well, I mean, it would almost be better if you were hired to eliminate the Assassin's Guild.
Yeah.
And you get these clues because these 3 people had previously been framed.
Yeah. Or, right? Or hired by actually the mayor himself, like to put something off, like, right? Expecting that you wouldn't succeed. Like at least, and then you have proximity to them. Like what other reason would you have to be able to actually get to the place where you can find out they did it if you're not either talking to them or have like close interaction with them? Because like you said, like getting through the castle to get to like their quarters,
you had no chance.
Yeah. So how would you ever figure it out?
There's tons of things. There's tons of traps. There's tons of like spellcasters and orcs.
And I don't think you're allowed just to like wander around the castle.
No. You can get in via the audience chamber. But trying to assassinate them like in the audience chamber is like a no-go. There's like an amazing magical effect that basically lights the entire room on fire.
The dragon statue that like breathes on like good people.
Yeah,
isn't that what it is?
Well, there's
that one.
There's also a statue of one of the gods that will defend. Like it activates.
The giant Titan statue.
Yeah, that like will summon a celestial guardian or whatever.
The dragon head statue trap didn't make sense to me. Like breathes on like good aligned people.
Yeah, it's not well thought out.
Yeah,
there's all kinds of random things in there, but the castle is enormous.
It's huge,
right? Like there's literally no way you could storm it in one go. And everybody knows who you are.
Yeah, and they know you've been snooping around, investigating.
And like, where are you going to go hide in the woods? There's bandits in the woods that work for the Assassin's Guild. Like, there's literally no way you can.
I think you have to add an assassination attempt on your party.
Oh yeah, no, it's built into there.
Yeah.
Like, if you get too close, they try to kill you.
Yeah.
Or they try to frame you, and a bunch of other stuff. Like, there's no way this turns out well for the party. So you need to kind of like take that into account. Like this might actually be something that's better to, like you mentioned, to sort of run in the background as an explanation on a shift in the political landscape.
Yeah.
Right. And they can poke into it and they can explore it and they can figure out like people that are involved in the Assassin's Guild. Maybe they want to join the Assassin's Guild, like that type of stuff. But I mean, even in the adventure, they suggest like one of the ways to resolve it is you ambush the guy who's going to go assassinate out of town. Like the expectation of going into the castle isn't really there. So I don't foresee you really having success in it. Like this seems like kind of like a fun, quote unquote fun, really depends on your party and your players.
Yeah.
Fun. What's the word I'm looking for? Oh, my brain just stopped. Conversational type of adventure.
Yeah.
Right. Like
that's why I think it would be good to run in the background, because like now there's information that your NPCs have when they're actually like I want to go to the blacksmith. It's like, well, then maybe they know something, or like, does the innkeeper have anything to say? Or there's rumors in town. There's like there's something going on in town just aside from it being like walking in and buying and selling stuff.
I mean, honestly, even if it was just like you're trying to find out who's a member of the guild and you get those clues because those are all suspects because they've all been framed in the past, right?
Yeah.
So you can figure out like, oh yeah, no, they actually are, or they aren't. And that's your quest is actually to try to figure out who the head of the guild is.
Yeah.
Like not to kill anybody, not to fight anybody, but like you just have an ongoing background adventure that they're trying to find this information out.
And if you think about it, like a week of adventuring is like a really long time, unless you're adventuring like really far out of town, right? Like if you're doing small things coming and going, you could be running other adventures. When they come back to town, it's been Monday, now it's Tuesday, someone's dead. There's more rumors in town. So then as the week goes on, they might be like, well, maybe we should actually look into this at the end of the day. Because a week is a long time in like in-game time.
Yeah. Yeah, but I don't know if you're running this in the background, do you want the timer in there? You know what I mean? Like, it depends.
Maybe not like not a success or fail timer, but like if they did 4 days of adventuring and then stuff is happening along the way to show the players that something is actually going on in town.
I think you'd need to have some sort of end game. You know what I mean? Like, what's the goal in discovering who the leader is?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Maybe you find out and they offer, like the hacker that hacked so-and-so, the better you are, the more valuable you are to them. So if you were able actually to find out who the leaders are, maybe you're more valuable in the guild as opposed to being opposed by them.
Or maybe you're hired by rival.
Yeah.
Or the Thieves Guild wants to know who's a member of the Assassin's Guild. Like, I would do it more from like an informational standpoint. It might work better that way. Or you just let it happen as is. And you can just have these situations that are occurring as like in the background of while you're doing Sinister Secret of Saltmarsh or something else. And the players can choose or not choose to get involved. Right? Like instead of maybe hiring them outright, like they can choose to pick, like even maybe they're in town already, someone comes in to investigate it, they get assassinated, and maybe the players have the opportunity to sort of like,
or like them leaving town to go and do something, come back during the public execution of the innkeeper.
he's like, wait a minute, no, he's our buddy, right? Like maybe they've done, or he's supposed to pay them.
Yeah.
He gives them a quest that sends them out of town, and when they come back, he's being executed. And they have to prove his innocence, and because he's going to be executed in X number of days, and if they can't prove his innocence, they don't get paid.
Right? Better incentive, I guess.
That's a great incentive, right? Because they don't just have to do it out of the goodness of their heart.
No, it's like if there's money involved.
They don't get paid for doing their job. Like there's lots of ways of going about it. Like I mean, it's kind of sandboxy in the way it's structured. I just don't know how you solve it in the end. And honestly, if anybody's ever run this, I would love to hear how it ended, if at all. Because I can't envision a situation that doesn't really end up with your party just trying to attack a castle and dying.
Yeah.
Well, probably not dying, like getting arrested and then getting executed.
Yeah, it is a no-win situation almost. Especially at a low level.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It doesn't make a ton of sense. And there's really like, why would you stay invested in it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, the players, if they get frustrated, why would they care? Like it doesn't really matter. You know, it's like, oh yeah, somebody got killed, we're getting paid to figure it out.
Someone got killed in the town where we know people get killed in.
Oh no, got killed somewhere else.
Yeah.
And you know, we suspect someone in the town with the Assassin's Guild that everybody knows there's an Assassin Guild there. Like, so the Assassin's Guild did it. Like there's a lot of that type of like
And that's like the feeling that you get from the NPCs too. It's just like everyone's like, oh yeah, well, what do you expect?
Yeah. I mean, frankly, this works better less as an adventure, as like a tool for you in your campaign. If you need a town and you want an Assassin's Guild, boom, ta-da, it's all in there, and use it however you want, right? You could even have this as like a district in a larger city, right? This is just, you make this part of like the waterfront district, and
such a cool area.
It's a great area. There's all kinds of fringe stuff, like, and I probably use it as that. Like, I can't really see me ever using this as an adventure and running it as is. I mean, I like lots of the things. I like the timer. I like the distractions. But like in the end, I could just see this being too frustrating and not fun.
Frustrating for everybody.
Yeah.
Like, because as a DM, you'd be like, well, you're not asking the right questions. And then the players are like, well, what do you mean? Like,
well, who are we supposed to talk to?
And you're like, well, I've given you all these leads. You've gotten these clues. And then you're all of a sudden, you're handing them information.
Yeah. But I mean, I think at a certain point, though, you still get stuck. Like, how do you finish it? Right? Like, how do you get into the...
Maybe it's a blaze of glory.
Well,
just a one-shot blaze of glory. And then the next time you play, you hear rumors about the adventuring party that tried to take out the Assassin's Guild.
Yeah, you could. I mean, if your players are down with that type of stuff. Or maybe, you know, you all get resurrected 50 years from now, you know, because you've become the heroes that took down that liberated the town, and there's statues
of
you.
The old priest has resurrected you randomly.
That would be really, 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 really funny.
Some new adventurer was sent on a quest to find the remains of the party that helped the old priest once upon a time.
Man, you don't even need remains of his true resurrection, right? Like, it's just you get a whole new body, whole brand new shiny body. Honestly, like, I know this is completely as an aside, but I always thought that'd be kind of an interesting way to start a campaign. Is you get resurrected after dying. Right? Like, we always talk about how if you know, a TPK can end, you know, by having your players capture it. But what if your TPK actually is a TPK, and then like you take it up like 100 years later, because you've become these heroes of legend, and someone's like, oh, let's go talk to them.
They bring like another party brings you guys back to like there's statues of these people all over town. They're like, who are these guys? And they're like, I don't know, let's find out. They just resurrect them.
They're like super disappointed.
Like, what's up? And you're like, yo, what did you say? And you're like, I don't know, I drank a lot and like killed a lot of things. Like, you are very underwhelming.
I just think that would be kind of a hilarious.
You blink to consciousness in front of 4 regal figures standing in front of you. What's up? Like, who are you guys? And you're like, oh, we brought you back to life. And you're like, why? Aren't you a hero? And you're like, no.
Anyways, I don't think I have anything more to say. The Assassin's not. I think it's an interesting location. It's less exciting of an adventure.
Yeah.
And yeah, if you've run it successfully, I'd like to know how you did that and how it turned out. Other than that, as always, thanks for listening. And if you have any suggestions for adventures we should look at in the future, please let us know.
Ciao.
Bye-bye.